tuning fork. So I'd literally hit a tuning fork and I'd be outside the body and I could hear the levels of energy in each of the organs. I would find resonances of imbalance in the system or an organ or a timeline, and then work with that piece of energy that could be connected all the way to present time in that patient. It could be a pattern that they've replicated over and over and added to all the way to the present time. But when you go back to the source, back to the beginning, and you work with that beginning energy and adjust the story using sound, using intention, using light, scalar energy sources, right? Then you can adjust that to retune and remove the distortion in the field.
Waking up, the tremendous pineal gland explosion, which I call the first eye, that is the transceiver to all that is one interpretation.
If you're ready to let go, people will show up. Why? Because they resonate with you. They're on the same frequency. They're in the same bandwidth. And so as we rise all together, more people are going to find, and then it's up to us to turn around and help them, realize their potential and their soul family. And that's how we rise together.
It's just incredible, the people that are showing up, the clarity around this Synchro Destiny mission, because it's not about my vision. It's about our vision. It's the grand vision where we are actually operating from our hearts. You and I are one and the same. Just different experiencers, different perspectives, different vantage points of that one reality.
Time is speeding up. Let's buckle up because it's coming.
Wow.
We made it.
Yes, we made it. Here we are. I have a very, very special guest for you today. This is the one and only Dr. Amy Marshall, an absolutely prolific person. And with our theme, the Ascend podcast, all around raising our frequency, our consciousness, and aligning our souls to our feet, right? Like bringing it into this tangible reality. So welcome, Amy. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for being here. It's such a privilege and an honor.
Thank you, Tyler.
You're most
I appreciate
welcome.
being here with you. It's been an interesting journey to get to this moment in time, but I'm really excited. And so is everybody on the other side.
Excellent. Would you like to walk us through a short meditation before we begin?
Sure. Yep, absolutely. Here we go. So just focus on your breath for a moment. Let it all out. Let the world pass out and go away and relax and calm and release. So for today, we're going to drop a grounding cord tied deeply into Mother Earth energy that will hold us in place and strengthen us at the same time, and creating a beautiful container of energy and consciousness, streaming consciousness from above, and calling in all our cosmic allies and our guides and highest teachers. And we release the energy to the souls who need this information, who those out there who are willing to open up their hearts to receive as well. The lives that we may touch and the lives that they may touch. Our soul family, our soul group. And then amplifying our heart energy to connect. And to drop into the here and now with Tyler on the Ascend podcast.
Oh. And we got Rio over here holding it down, working the magic.
Thank you, Rio.
Oh my goodness. Focus Fire Media.
Focus Fire Media.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tyler, for creating spaces for people to bring their work and Rio to the forefront, because it's so needed. It's such a value. Such a value. And with technology and everything coming in so quickly, the word can get out quickly and the world can ascend quicker than ever. So what you guys are doing and bringing that to the forefront is instrumental. It's instrumental to the process, because so many people and souls, I feel, have been on their own journeys and in their own isolated lighthouses for so long. That time is over. It's done. The chapter's closed.
That's
And
right.
it's time to coalesce the light so it can be stronger and move forward quicker and go deeper. And we've got work to do.
Yes.
So,
Can you speak to that internal transfer for you of going from being more introverted, unavailable to share at the scale and bandwidth that you have? And as you've been gaining more and more comfort with your internal landscape, I'd love to hear about some of your patient experiences and some of the transformations that have taken place, both for you and for them.
sure. If I can give a little bit of context, I was a registered nurse for a long time, and I was a surgical nurse in a MASH unit in the military. And we would drop air transportable hospitals off of C-130s and set up surgical suites on the side of the battlefield.
That's amazing.
That's what we did. It was really fun.
A portable hospital that
Yes.
comes out of a plane.
Yes. So we would set up these surgical suites. And so I had some training in that. It was really fun. I enjoyed it. However, I did get a vaccine in the military, which injured me quite a bit
Mm,
and put me back. And I began to have a little bit more clarity and awareness around medical stuff, medical things, medical injections, medical medications. Even though I'm a Western trained nurse, I just had a different viewpoint after that moment, where I almost died. So, moving forward, I was a surgical nurse at Parkland in the operating room. Again, high trauma area, burn victims, bus crashes, who knows? You name it, we had it.
ouch.
And had a lot of intimate experiences with the inside of the body, the inside of the brain, heart, and things like that. I mean, I've held organs in my hands. I'm really deep in medical. And I remember being in the OR suite one time, and I believe it was after the brain surgery that was like 12 hours. Um, I sat there and I asked the question, I said, where is there more? The physical body to me is a lovely plane. And I've been playing in this sandbox for a long time now. By then it had been about 10 years. And I asked the question, show me where the more is. I don't know.
Hmm.
And I said, there just has to be more. So show me where it's at. And I just sort of left it at that, kind of didn't come back to that for a while. And then when I went to nurse practitioner school, and then I got my doctorate in thyroid studies. So again, deep in the medical, system and knowledge. The knowledge is amazing and beautiful, um, and really enjoyed helping patients in that kind of a sphere. But some things happened along the way, as they do for everyone. My dad died about 8 years ago, and it was a huge turning point for me. He was one of my rocks. My mom was my other rock, and it kind of shook me to the core, I believe. And I was kind of irritated that the world kept going when my dad died. So, but in the middle of the night, one night I woke up and I knew beyond a shadow of a doubt that my dad was standing next to my bed, period, hands down, no questions asked.
Wow. In what
I,
kind of form? How did you
I
experience that?
felt it. I actually didn't see at that time. But I heard a phrase that has become one of my phrases over and over, and it's buckle up, you're on the fast track.
Thanks, Dad.
Thanks, Dad. And I was like, what does that mean? And I'll be darned if the next day I went to work and I'm seeing a patient, and this woman had flown in, I can't remember from where. And she said, I needed to see two people here today. One was Dr. Tennant, who I was working with at the time in integrative medicine. And she said, I'm needing to see you as well.
Mm.
And the information for you, my dear, this is what she's telling me. She's like a 75-year-old woman. She said, buckle up, you're on the fast track.
Another piece of confirmation.
So again, it's like I was in kind of shock, like, okay, what does that mean? And then it wasn't very long to where I understood what that meant. So I would have Sikhs coming in that I would be doing work on, or shamans coming in. I had, twin brother priests come in. I had Sikhs come in, and I was deep into sound work at that time. I had really shifted from nurse practitioner work and doctorate thyroid studies, endocrine stuff, to way more sound healing. And that was kind of the gateway for me to begin to see and sense subtle energies.
Mm.
So the sound actually became my diagnostic tool, believe it or not.
Can you double click on that?
Sure. So I was literally in sound 8 hours a day, sometimes longer. So instead of like running a thyroid lab test and seeing where their numbers are or their liver enzymes or whatever, I would actually listen. So I would be outside the body in the biofield. I learned biofield tuning, and I could see and feel which side of the thyroid was low. And then the information would come in. This person needs iodine. This person has an adjustment to make back when they were 3 years old.
Hmm.
So when I would do the adjustment or the energetic healing piece, I would go back and listen, and I'll be darned if the sound would come up in clarity and brightness and tone and volume. So I was like, huh, that's interesting. And it was such a unique time. There was about 5 years there where I was in my own world working on people and allowing my intuition and um, curiosity to flow. So I would start listening to people's teeth and go, I think you have an infection in that tooth.
When you say listening to their organs, listening to their teeth, is this with your own ears?
No, with a tuning fork.
With a tuning fork?
Sorry, I didn't explain. Tuning fork. Like
Okay.
this is my battle. Yeah, this is what I use in battle. It's not a battle, but you know what I mean. So I'd literally hit a tuning fork, and I'd be outside the body, maybe about 4 feet away or 3 feet away, and I could hear the levels of energy in each of the organs or the bones, or I could hear in the timeline when there were issues with a person when they were young, or then I started hearing back in the generations. I could hear where the generations started with anemia, for example, that's tied to, a loss. So it just started getting really deep really fast. And the more I dove in and just started listening with curiosity and following the energy, the deeper it went. So then, a year or two goes by, and then all of a sudden, my pineal gland cracked. I was sitting in meditation. That's really not fun if you've ever had that experience. I was assessing myself for stroke. Good thing I knew that assessment, because I was like, I think I actually may have had a stroke because it hurts so bad.
Whoa.
And my head just,
You,
just
you say it
exploded.
cracked. I mean, can
Literally
you,
had a pop in my head.
was it audible to you?
It was like an ACDC concert.
What?
It was an explosion. It was so loud. And I was pretty much into a heavy duty meditation practice at that time. I always would hold my Euphora light in either side, and I would just sit. And the energy donation of these is so pure. Lots of lithium content in these stones, which is particularly nourishing for the brain. And it cracked, and my head popped, and it hurt so bad. And then I passed out for about 2 hours.
Whoa.
And then after that, um, the visions really started coming in. So instead of just using the sound, the visual images would come in as well at the same time. So, so for example, if I'm going back to the thyroid example, if there was something that happened at 3 with a patient, I would get the image of them maybe trapped underneath a fallen house, and I would say, "Do you feel stuck?" And they're like, "Yeah." And I said, okay, well, this is the image that's coming up, and that's aligning with where I'm at in your timeline with the sound. So I would use like words to help talk them out of that moment in time,
Hmm.
meaning, okay, let's recreate that. If your subconscious mind is holding on to that imagery and the energetics of that, let's create something else.
Hmm.
So then I would use the sound, we would use words and imagery to recreate that story, to heal that story, collapse the timeline, and then I would go back and listen to that moment at 3, and there's nothing there to hear. It was crazy. That's what was happening.
Nothing there to hear.
Meaning the sound was pure.
Right.
There's no
Back to
overtones.
harmony.
Back to harmony, back to resonance, right? So yeah, I would find resonances of imbalance in the system or an organ or a timeline, and then work with that piece of energy that could be connected all the way to present time in that patient.
Wow.
It could be a pattern that they've replicated over and over and added to all the way to the present time. But when you go back to the source, back to the beginning, and you work with that beginning energy and adjust the story using sound, using intention, using light, scalar energy sources, right? Then you can adjust that to retune and remove the distortion in the field. And that when you remove the distortion in the field, it does a couple of things. On the physical body no longer has to hold and maintain that energy back when that person was 3 and maintain that energy out in the field.
It sounds exhaustive. It's like a computer. There's all these programs that are running, and each one's taking up RAM,
Exactly.
everyone's taking up storage space, and CPU cycles.
So we wonder why emotions drain us of energy. That's why. Because if you have 10 or 20 of these, impactful moments, your physical body and energy body is literally still maintaining it with your light, with your energy. Let's say you have a lot of loss, and that's all on your heart. What's that going to put you at risk for?
Heart attack.
Right. So people do die of loss, you know? So those were some moments that were they're very intriguing to me. Like I began to feel like, okay, this is actually what I was born for.
When did you get that feeling?
That was probably about 4 or 5 years ago, where it's like I can do nothing else. Actually, this is why I'm here.
So you had 1,000 days and nights of waking up, the tremendous pineal gland explosion, which I
Mm,
call the first eye. It is gifted to us at 7 weeks, at 49 days, is when it's activating. And as we learned at Joe Dispenza, where we got to meet,
mm,
that is the transceiver, right?
right.
To all that is one interpretation. Feel free and interpret however you will.
It's also a transducer. It's
Mm.
also a transmuter. So, what if you take your light from your pineal gland and work on your spleen, work on your heart? So, we forget that the light that is within us is intuitive and intelligent. And it became very clear to me that, hey, by the way, not only am I going to bring back this energy on your thyroid, but we're going to actually upgrade your thyroid um, and transmute some other stuff there while we're there. So it's like, wow, okay, we are really superhuman.
Mm.
We really are. And it's teaching people really who they are. I was working with a gentleman in India this morning. It was just a beautiful human. And he kept saying, I just feel so blocked. Like I can feel the energy coming up through my body. I'm a great meditator, but like right here, I get stuck.
Mm.
And he said, I'm blocked and I don't know why. And I said, okay, well, let's drop in. So we dropped in this morning, and I could see the energetic pattern of him working through each one of his chakra systems or horizontal diaphragms or whatever. And there truly was a block right there, but I could see a bigger block way above his head.
Above.
Above. Yeah. So it was like the eighth chakra is where it was. And so I tapped into his guides and I said, hey, what's going on here? What do we need to do? Is this something we can remove? Because sometimes it's not the right thing to do to remove something. And they said it's not that he's blocked, it's that his body can't receive the higher energies right now until he detoxes another 6 months or so, because he had a
Mm.
lot of physical things going on. So he needed that time to kind of purge on the physical in order to have this massive concrete block, is what it looked like, removed. He couldn't handle that channel of energy coming in. So what the energy work we did today was we were able to transmute the concrete block into this beautiful field of gold above his head
Mm.
and put a door, so that when the time is right, he can go into meditation. And it's still going to be about 6 months or so, but it might be sooner now. He may be able to detox a little quicker,
Mm.
where he can open that and receive that higher energies, to where he can astral travel and go to the Akashic records and see his guides and things like that. That's what he wanted to do. It wasn't even his physical body, which was so beat up. He wanted that.
Hmm.
So that's what we worked on today. You know, um, and again, I would always recheck it with the sound, and it would be super clear.
You can check even with somebody that you're working with remotely?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Of course.
Of course.
The field is
The
there is
field
no
is the
time and
field.
space. There is no time and space.
How do you attune to that?
So I believe I got really good training when I was working in sound for so many years. I can laser focus on the body and the world falls away. And that's when I know I'm in the flow state.
Mm.
Nothing else exists when I'm in those sessions. So I just had a lot of training with very, very focused energy. I did. And so now it's easy to drop in like that. I can see what's going on pretty easily. Sometimes it takes some time to drop in or to receive the visual. And then I go, okay, so here's the visual. Let's work with that.
Hmm.
And then see what else happens after that. So here's another cool example. I was working with a woman in Hong Kong and lovely, lovely. The people who come to work with me, they're just lovely humans.
And they
I'm
seem to
just,
just find you.
they do. They just find me 100%. I learned so much from them as well. Um, but she had a lot of health issues again, which is one of the reasons why people find me. I think they're looking for kind of the healing on the physical, which we haven't really talked about. But for her, it was she had a Metaport, which is a port that they put under the skin to deliver medications and IVs to.
Really?
It's a great tool. It's a great, great tool. Well, she had had hers in for a long time, and it was ready to be taken out. And she was nervous about taking it out and things like that. So we did some energy work. I kind of peeled back layers so when they took it out, it would be nice and clean and whole. It was. Um, and then when she got out of, they had to put her asleep because she was really nervous about it. But when she got out of surgery, we did some work pulling off anesthesia because that's really important to do after surgery is to pull off anesthesia energetically. And then she said, I've just felt like I can't breathe very well. I was like, okay, so let's dive into that. So I'm tuning into her rib cage, tuning into her lungs, tuning into her heart. And her guides were like, she's smushed. What am I supposed to do with that information?
Right?
Right. So I was like, okay, so your heart's cramped, your lungs are cramped, and your rib cage is too small. That's what's going on. So this is going to sound crazy. But I went in and I basically lifted her rib cage and just created a little bit more space. Um, and you could watch her. I watched her go like this after I did that. And she goes, oh my gosh, I can breathe. And I'm like, wow, whoa.
Wild. Do you feel resistance when you're going in there and
Hmm.
making an adjustment like that?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Hmm.
And I think that's one of the things that we're missing is this awareness of subtle energies. It's just being able to feel. It's
Hmm.
just being able to tune into the subtle energies of things. And
Maybe
that's
that's why it's called the field.
nice, Tyler. Linguistic. Yeah, it is. And that's veiled from us. And it's just time to unveil that,
Hmm.
you know? So I had another crazy experience not too long ago. She came into my office and I'm sitting there and I'm looking and she's on my table and I'm sitting there and all of a sudden and I couldn't even find the word because it's not really in my repertoire. And I was like, there's a very white face painted Asian lady sitting. And then I went, oh, it's a geisha.
Hmm.
Isn't that right? Isn't that what those, an Asian woman dressed in that regalia? And I was like, she and I are working together on your stomach right now. And we were working together. And when she left, she texted me a picture of her sitting next to a geisha. I'm like, whoa, I just can't make this stuff up. I just can't make it up.
Wow.
So it's very humbling, to be honest. It's very humbling because, the other side is just opened up and they're willing to work and they want to be here and they want us to rise and they want to communicate with us just as we want to communicate with them.
Can you speak to what they means?
Sure. So for starters, sometimes it's ancestors. Sometimes it's ancestors who can't quite leave the physical plane yet. They may have some unfinished business. They may be super connected. Um, to individuals that they just don't want to leave behind. And that happened this morning. And so we did some healing work around that and helped them leave and go to their next, their next place, their next part of their journey. Other things that have come in have been Palladians and Syrians and beings that I have no names for. I mean, you can go down the rabbit trail. It shows up like dragons sometimes. It shows up as just plain imagery. And I know somebody's behind that giving me information to help this person.
Mm.
That's always, it comes from service. It comes from a place of being in me being in a place to serve. That's when it comes in. If I'm doing it for any other reason, it doesn't work very well. But when my heart is open and their heart is open, and the goal is to help them along their path, that's when the information shows up. And it's like a skill. Everybody has the skill. Everybody
Yes.
has the skill. It's a matter of practice. I just had a crucible of time. I had some interesting experiences along the way that really forced the issue, and so I'm grateful to be here. This point in my life. So to go back to your original question, which is what brought me to this point, about almost 2 years ago now, I had a heart attack, and I actually drove myself to the ER, and I said,
It's pretty wild in and of itself that you drove
I
yourself to the
know,
ER
I
having a heart
know,
attack.
I know. Don't get me started. So, I said, "Hey, I'm having a heart attack," and the nurse looks at me like, "Mm-hmm." I said, "Here, check my blood pressure." And she's like, "Oh, Lord." So she brings me to the back there. And so they start doing their whole workup thing. And they're like, "Hey, do you use drugs?" I'm like, "No." And I don't hang around loose women. And I don't smoke. And I don't gamble. And I just, no, I don't fit your bill. I just don't. But it was stress. It was purely stress. Well, the fun part happens when they're like, "Hey, we can't treat you here. We've got to transport you."
Mm.
And at this point in time, the chest pain was getting kind of intense. And I knew it was not a good situation. And so they plopped me in the back of an ambulance for about a 30-minute ride. And I'm going by Dallas, and I was like, okay, this is getting really hard. I'm just going to go into meditation because that's kind of the only way I can deal with this right now because it hurt. And so I go into meditation, and the golden door showed up, and I was like, nope, nope, I'm here with the pain. I'm here with the pain. I got the pain. I'm fine with the pain. I'm good. I got stuff to do and children to raise. And then the pain just kept back. And I was like, forget it. I'm going in. And so I went into meditation, and there they were again. And the doors opened up, and I was like, fine. So I walk in, and there's like Christ and Mary and all these. It looked like actually Starship Enterprise, where there were a whole bunch of beings that I didn't really recognize. And they were at a table, and they were kind of having like a conference about me. And I walked in, I'm like, hey. And they said, come on in. So I came in and I sat down, and they started giving me a little bit of a life review. And I'm like, oh crap, here we go. And they reminded me every time that I said, this is killing me. This is hurting my heart. I'm alone. The loss is too much for me. My heart can't handle it. They literally made a
Every
list
single time?
every single time. Every single time.
Wow.
And I just started weeping. And I was like, oh my gosh, I self-created this. And they're like, yes, you did.
And of course, that's why it was a heart attack.
Right. I've experienced betrayal like everybody else,
Of course.
so some of those betrayal moments were pretty heavy duty. And they reminded me of those. And I always carry it in my heart. And then, so after this beautiful life review, they said, what's your choice? What do you want to do? And I sat there for a moment. I was like, this is a really beautiful place. I feel so good here. Can I stay? And they said, well, you can if you want, you know? And then I started thinking about my children and my work here, which I already knew. And I was like, no, okay, I'll go back. So they all just kind of give me a hug, just total love and bliss. It was just bliss, just absolute bliss. Everything went away.
Mm.
Everything went away. Peace, stillness, and bliss and joy. And so they all gave me a hug and they walked me to the door. I walked back out into my body and boom, the chest pain was like, wow, I was just screaming chest pain. And they got me into the ER and they, at the ER at the big hospital, and they're pulling labs and doing what they usually do.
Was this during your transport from the one
Uh-huh.
hospital to the other?
Yeah.
And did you feel like you were still connected to your body, or were you completely in that etheric
Oh, I was
space
gone. I was gone. At that time, I
at
was
that
gone.
time?
I didn't feel any chest pain. I didn't feel my body. I was gone. And the minute I said I'll stay, it was just like whoop, like a time warp right back into the body, and the chest pain just hit like a mother. And then it was on. It was game on, and from that point, you know. So, with health issues after that, I had to deal with my own physical healing, which I went down to Mexico and had amazing experience and learned a lot, so I can help patients in a different way. And then it was things have finally aligned and settled down to where it's time. I have no more excuses.
Yeah.
I have no more excuses.
DrAmyMarshall.com.
so so I honor the flow state. I honor when we can find it and when we utilize that to move us forward, whatever it is.
Mm,
It could be communicating with your dog. It could be hugging a tree. It could be focus fire media. Whatever the flow state is, that is where you're meant to be. And when
yes.
you don't show up for it, the universe will hand you something to nudge you that way, you know? So, does that answer your question?
Oh my goodness. It's just absolutely limitless with you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
There are no limits. The only limit actually is my imagination. And I try not to let that get in the way. No limits on that. And so if it's the most bizarre thought, vision, whatever it is, I just honor it. I stop and I honor it and I go, okay, what am I supposed to learn from this?
Mm,
And sometimes it takes a little bit of interpretation when it's a vision. Um, my grandmother showed up one time and she was making fudge, and I'm like, "Why are you showing me making fudge? Like, what am I supposed to do with that?" I was like, "I love your fudge. What am I supposed to do?
what the fudge?
What the fudge?" Exactly. Yeah. And then she showed me like getting things organized, putting in a cabinet. It was like getting your life in order, Amy. Make it, get
Yes.
it in order, and let's get going. That was the message.
Yes.
That was the message. And, it just comes that way. And it's different for everybody. People have clear cognizance where they just know. And I've had things like that before where I'm walking and a knowing comes in and it's like, okay, that's truth. No denying that anymore. That is the truth. So,
Can we double click on how somebody can get to a state of more awareness of their subtle energies that they're experiencing, the different senses that we have beyond just the five regular traditional senses?
mhm. I think that's part of the reason why I'm here is to help people in that realm where I need to create classes and create sacred containers where they feel safe to do that. That's number one. Every sense that we have, there's an extension of a psychic gift attached to it. And I believe, from my experience, people come in with ones that are kind of innately there. And that's a good place to start.
Mm,
Um, for example, like the knowing sense. If you have a knowing and you just kind of brush it off, well, they're not going to send you so many knowings.
right.
If you're going to like,
This one's not paying attention.
yeah, let's just
Let's
forget,
go to
let's
the
move
next
on,
one.
right? Let's move to the next person who's paying attention. It's paying attention. It's an awareness game. It's an
Mm,
awareness. That's why focus is such a superpower. So if you
Mm.
can stop and focus on that knowing or that image, how does it feel in your body? Does it feel a specific place in your body?
Mm.
Because that sometimes gives you information. Is it your power center? Is it your heart center? Is it stuck in your head? You know,
Or a particular organ.
yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Sometimes people can connect to their body a little bit easier. Is it in your spleen? Is it in your stomach? Is it worry? Or is it liberation and empowerment in your body, in your solar plexus?
Mm.
Is it an image to, or a feeling or a knowing that you need to quiet your mind so that more can come in? A big part of, I think, what we all need to do, this is just the world according to Amy, is some detox. I think that the heavy metals that we're exposed to, the infection load that we're exposed to, I believe that when we can detox more, we can receive more. We are receivers, as you said before. And when our receiver is covered with stuff, dust, it impacts what we're able to receive.
Right. We can think about it like an old analog TV that has the bunny ears, right? And there's
Right.
a dial to tune into the frequency. All those frequencies are there, but we can only focus on one at a time. And if we're off on that frequency, we experience static, right? And
Absolutely.
it's jarring to the body, but yet just the subtle tuning.
Hmm.
Okay, now we're at 99.5 FM and it's coming through nice and silky smooth and sweet, full
Smooth
bandwidth,
jazz.
smooth jazz 106.7 on your FM dial.
Just a drop in. I got a ride in an F-16 when I was in the military.
What?
Yeah, I did.
In an F-16?
I did.
Don't those go Mach 2?
Yeah, but I didn't. I went 6.8 Gs. I did not go Mach.
6.8 Gs?
Yeah, I pulled 6.8 Gs. Yeah. And it's such an interesting parallel because my G suit went off and shunts blood to the brain so that you don't pass out.
What do you mean it shunts blood to the
So a
brain?
G suit is like a big hug, a very fast and strong hug. And the purpose of it is to actually shunt blood to your brain so you don't pass out. Because pilots, if they pass out in an F 16, it's bad juju. So they've got to get the blood to the brain, you know? So I remember this moment in the F-16 where he took off and he went whoop and he went straight up and I'm like, oh my God, what have I got myself into? I actually asked for it because I won an award and they're like, hey, what do you want? Ride an F-16, of course.
It's the obvious choice. I mean, what
Obviously.
else would you
It was the
choose?
base commander. And I was like, dude, I want that. He's like, okay. I was the last person to get an F-16 ride over at Carswell Air Force Base here. Anyway, so when the G suit went off, um, right before that moment, you start to lose your peripheral vision. Everything becomes black, like for real. You're gone. You're going, you're gone.
Wow.
And when the peripheral vision starts to close, that's when the G suit actually, I guess it detects G's and knows the human body enough to like shunt the blood up to your brain. And so it actually closed down to about like this. And the G suit went off and then it began to come out. And I remember in that moment going, okay, so this is what death is like.
Mm,
Very interesting. Practice round one of death,
right?
many others to follow. But there's a stillness there that we can't, that's difficult to access in an everyday kind of a light. I would imagine with, in deep meditation, you're releasing DMT and things like that. It's the same thing,
Right.
but it's created physically by going in an F-16. So I remember that moment and thinking, whatever this is, it's lovely, and that was what, 25 years ago or so. And then, so I've had moments like that along the way. And everybody's had moments where they've had serendipity, they've had, coincidences. They're not coincidences. They're things that have happened for you to pay attention to put in your bucket, to start listening, to have the awareness,
The
uh,
opportunity.
the opportunity. And then you program yourself to look for those. As soon as you wake up in the morning, oh, what are the miracles and opportunities that are going to happen for me today? I can't wait. I'm so excited.
Mm,
And sure enough, you'll have them. So you're tuning yourself with your tuning fork. You're tuning yourself to the higher awareness, the subtle energies, the drop-ins. So it's like an ABC, like always be connected, always be connected. Put a timer on your phone every hour. A little chime, a birdie goes off. Oh, let me take 30 seconds. Let me reconnect. Bing. Okay. And then you keep on with your day. So it's a constant reminder. And the more that you do that, the more times throughout the day you're going to be connected to the higher realms.
Wow. What would somebody do specifically with the tuning forks? And are there any frequencies you suggest working with?
528 is always a great one. That's the heart energy. But I do 963 a lot. I have every tuning fork known to man. But I think more importantly than the hertz is the intention behind that and the use of sound, whatever frequency it is, to be honest. Because I've used all forks on all parts of the body, on all the lobes of the brain, and I'm still getting the information that I need. And they're still feeling it, and it's still transmuting heavy energies or subtle, not so subtle energies from traumas.
What is it about the tuning fork that creates that? Why is it that it's such a clear channel of communication?
That's a great question. So if I ring a tuning fork and it's on a particular frequency, let's see, yeah, if it's on a particular frequency,
You can go ahead and
yeah, I can
yeah,
tune, yeah.
absolutely.
So I can tune you over here, by the way,
Thank you.
because I can tune in India and Hong Kong, right?
That's right.
Okay, there's your heart. There's your stomach. Did you hear the difference there? Let me do it again. So listen to the volume and then listen to the pitch. Okay,
Okay.
and there's your heart. It's a beautiful heart. Imagine that. So I would listen to that and be like, not much to do there, but I already knew that. Okay. So if I listen to your stomach, there's your stomach.
Whoa. Truth. Yeah, that's a work in progress.
So to me, I have an awareness that there's probably some work to do. Now, I could go far out and I could say, is this generational? Is this past lives? Where does this start? Is this an infection? Is this an emotional trauma? Is this a mental program? What is this? I don't know.
Yes,
I have to
to
ask.
probably all of it.
Or it could be all of it. Right. So you go find the source with the sound. And the sound is just like tuning a violin, just like you said on the radio. It's tuning the symphony of that organ and tuning out, if you will, the disharmonic frequencies. So to answer your question, when you come upon a place in the body and it needs work, like your stomach, your solar plexus, your empowerment piece. So when you come upon moments, I'm going to feel resistance actually outside of your body. Literally, something is pushing up against me. So it would be like this. So if, let's say, this is the disharmonic resonance, this is the junk energy, this is the trauma. So literally, if I ring my tuning fork and I come upon your moment, whatever this moment is, it'll literally push against me and I can't move forward very fast.
Wait, what?
What? So it's a ball of energy.
Are you using that euphoria light as an example
Yeah,
of
just an
something?
example.
So you
Yeah,
can
because
use
I can't.
anything as because the intention behind it. So you're using something to represent that organ.
Well, yeah, there already is a representation. I'm just using this as a visual. There already is stuck energy and emotional trauma or whatever you want to call it out in your field.
Oh, so you're not holding euphoria light. You're using the tuning fork and then moving in, and then you're experiencing the resistance at various points.
Correct.
Ah.
That's it. And so when you stay in that resistance for a moment, the sound is a scalar energy source, right?
And can you explain what scalar energy is?
I can, just a second. So when you are in that resistance, you can wait. You can wait for the sound to do its work. You can do some shamanic energy work around it. Maybe it's a cord. Maybe it's an attachment. I don't know. I have to go in and ask. So I used to just use like sound to do it, but I realized that if I would just stop for a moment and tap in and go, okay, what is this? And they'd be like, your guides would be like, okay, it's your grandmother's still hanging around, or it's an old relationship that needs to be dissolved. The cord needs to be removed, or whatever. So I found that when I removed whatever was there, or brought into healing whatever was there, that the sound would easily move forward and clean up and clear. So it became a way for me to check my work, if you will, with the sound. So it became diagnostic. I found out where I needed to work, and then I could check my work after. But I could also use it to do the work. It just depends
The
on,
tuning fork itself.
yeah, sound. I mean, sound cures many, many things. We've seen it with Rife, right? We've seen it with Rife frequencies. Sound can blast open a bacteria and be done with it. It helps with cancer. It helps with everything. So, so what was your second question?
Scalar energy.
Oh,
How do
scalar
you
energy.
define that?
Yeah. So scalar energy is like earth energy is the best way I can describe it. It's a very subtle, they call them retarded Hertzian waves. It's a vortex of energy that runs really slow, really, really slow. Like under 4 hertz per minute, something like that. It's just really, really slow. So when you go outside and you feel the energy of the tree, I just use trees as an example because I'm a tree person, but you can feel that calming energy off a tree. Or when you go outside and you ground, that's receiving scalar energy from the earth. A hug is scalar energy from one person to the next. You're actually, if you're hugging someone, you're donating energy to them. When a mom holds her sick child,
Representing the Super Hug
yeah.
Club right here. That's right. We got endorphins, dopamine, serotonin, oxytocin going up, cortisol going down, heart rate and blood pressure all decreasing with the Super Hug. Shout out to Sound, the Profound with the Super Hug Club.
Super Hug Club.
These are 20-second consensual, 20-second heart-to-heart hugs with synchronized breath.
Absolutely.
And 8 hugs a day keeps the doctor away.
Amen. I'm allergic to doctors.
Except yourself.
I get in my own way sometimes, just like everybody else.
Don't we all?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so I'll give you an example of scalar energy. I had a unique experience when I was with Dr. Kareem up in Canada, and he was giving a lecture. And I'm a backseat kind of girl. So I was sitting at the back of this huge ballroom, and I could see, 7 or 8 rows in front of me of 100 or 200. I think it's probably more like 200 people or so. And he took the cube out. So he took the cube out for biogeometry and put it right in front of everybody on the table. And he said, and he put a paper over it. And he said, everybody get your pendulums out. And I'm a pendulum user because it helps us detect subtle energy. So he puts a cover over it. He says, everybody get your pendulum out. And so I'm seeing rows and rows of pendulums coming out. And I'm at the very back row. And so when everybody was ready, where's my pendulum? Here it is. This is my biogeometry pendulum. So when everybody was ready, essentially, we're all holding our pendulums, and there's a lot of scalar energy in here right now. So it's already going. But anyway, so everybody's pendulum is still. He takes the cover off of the cube. And I had this aha moment where I saw the first row pendulums start to move. Everybody's super tuned into the cube. And then the second row started to move. And then the third row started to move. And then the fourth and the fifth. And then I was on the sixth. And then my pendulum slowly started to move because I was super tuned into the cube. And so I'm watching this happen almost in like a waveform coming to the back. And I realized how slow scalar energy is. Like it probably took about 30 to 45 seconds for the wave to get to me, for the energy to get to me from that cube in a big ballroom.
Wow.
I know. It was really mind-blowing to me.
But it is an emanation similar to a wave in the ocean where if there's an iceberg that falls, that wave could travel until it finds shore.
Yeah. And then it'll bump into things as it goes.
Right.
Absolutely. So when we do biogeometry healing, we're recreating kind of this earth energy in people's homes. We are creating or transmuting, not canceling and not blocking. We're actually transmuting EMF and Wi-Fi and grid lines that you might be sleeping on to support life. Yeah, because we know that a lot of EMF is not life supportive. We know that grid lines in the earth are not supportive of life. As a matter of fact, a long time ago, you would never put your home on a grid line. Duh,
When you say
you know?
grid line, are you meaning like electrical lines?
No, so Earth energy lines. So the Earth has her own grid line of positive and negative. Hmm.
Interesting.
Yeah. So it's her way of balancing too. She has her positive and negative, her way to receive and her way to release. Well, you don't want to be on a releasing line of the Earth. That's not where your bed needs to be.
Mm.
So the ley lines is where you want to be.
And what is a ley line?
A ley line is the kind of the energy donation lines of the Earth. They're healing lines. That's where the ancient ones, like I was saying the other day, the ancient ones would put their city center there. They would put megaliths and things like that in the earth there to expand and promulgate that scalar energy coming from that spot on the earth.
Mm.
So they found ways to harness the scalar energy to benefit humans.
Hmm.
So biogeometry is replicating that using shape information. So resonating with a true shape information of a heart, for example. That shape information is connecting with your heart as you're wearing that necklace to create resonance. It's creating resonance. So Dr. Cream has done some really fun work in Hamburg, Switzerland. You can read it on their website, biogeometry.ca. And also even medical studies on liver function tests and what wearing that necklace does. He's done the study on that did better than regular medicine in healing liver enzymes.
Wow.
Yeah, it's beautiful work. It's beautiful.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
And you do actually offer these? This is something that people
I
could
do.
actually get at dramymarshall.com.
.com. Yeah, I do. And so, yeah, it's been, but what the reason why I resonate with biogeometry so much is that it is a subtle energy practice. It is a subtle energy practice. So if I'm going to go find grid lines or ley lines in this room, I need to be attuned to what that feels like, but I can also use my pendulum to pick that up.
Mm.
And I can pick up harmful energies or I can pick up helpful energies. The BG3 is what he calls it.
The
The BG3,
B-
biogeometry. There's
BG3?
mhm.
Hmm.
So that energy necklace that you're wearing is delivering BG3 to those specific organs that are on that necklace.
Thank you for this gift. This
You're,
was a birthday gift. Thank you.
yeah, you're welcome.
And this too. The ring.
You got your ring.
Yeah. And you said that this has shape information for each of the organs within the body
It does.
to bring them back into coherence via scalar waves.
Right.
Slow, resonant frequency that allows what? Harmony?
Harmony. Yeah, absolutely. And you can, when I have a transducer, a light, and I started tracing organ systems. I would trace like the heart shape information that he developed onto somebody's body with light.
Hmm.
And then I would go back and listen to it in the field with my sound, like I was sharing before, and it would help clear.
Wow.
I know. It's incredible.
Wow. And the placebo effect
Of
is
course.
such a wild thing where just about every double blind study, at least that I'm aware of, is over 30%
Hmm.
tends to be the same effect as a medicine with zero medicine, with a sugar pill.
Hmm.
And I mean, sugar potentially has some negative connotations there, but like essentially a blank thing, a belief system that was installed via a
Yeah.
prescription, right? Some sort of a permission slip so that the mind can actually grab a hold to, I'm doing something towards healing.
And people need to be in a safe place to let those programs go.
Mm.
It's not going to come when they're pressured or forced to. They need to be in a place where they can really, have a place of an open heart to allow those new programs to come in. So whether it's Joe Dispenza or, having a session with me, it's mine is just very specific driven based on my training, but it's the same principle. It's us getting out of our own way and getting out of our head and into our heart and allowing.
I love what
Absolutely.
Tony Robbins says there. You get in your head, you're dead.
Dead.
Yeah. And we've had a lot of near death experiences in this here incarnation.
Why, yes, we have. Yes, we have. Absolutely. Yeah. It's been quite the journey for me. And I look back and I can see kind of the breadcrumb trail as it goes along as to really why I'm here. Um, and yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited to move forward finally in the place where I need to be. And I can feel every now and then tugs to pull off my path. I don't know if you've experienced that before, but it's like a big shiny
Oh, have
object over
I?
here. And I'm like,
How
nope.
many times? At what capacity? And what clarity?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's been some shiny objects along the way, and that's not helpful.
Can you speak to what it's like to walk consistently in alignment, listening to the subtle energies, right? And actually experiencing that soul mission? Because the more that I've been experiencing this heart brain coherence, right, the amplitude actually grows. So can't just be in one, can't just be in the other.
Right.
And the more that I've been experiencing that, the more that I've been noticing uh, synchronicity is the best word that I can think of. And so I'm actually calling it synchro destiny now, where all these different relationships that keep opening up, like Rio. I mean, we met on the 1st of January, 1/1/24 at a portal. Thank you, Dallas Movement Collective, for what you did. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Chris. Beautiful experience. And he literally just said, "Hey, I was just called to come over here and say what's up." And that's it. It was like a 3-minute drop in. It was just like, you guys have great energy. Let's connect and make music, make videos, got all these cool abilities, right? And hence Focus Fire Media. Check us out at Focus Fire Media on Instagram, focusfiremedia.com. Anyway, it's just incredible the brotherhood and the sisterhood that's been forming. You know, we recently just went to Louisiana and got to experience this depth of connection, and yeah, all those god bumps showing up. It's just incredible, the people that are showing up, the clarity around this synchro destiny mission, because it's not about my vision,
No.
it's about our vision. It's the grand vision where we are actually operating from our hearts, right? And we check in with the mind.
Mm-hmm.
We leverage the mind as a tool to say, hey, is this actually mechanically making sense here in 3D? Because this thing believes that this is all that there is. And this thing knows
That it's not.
that you and I are one and the same. We're just
Right.
different experiencers, different perspectives, different vantage points of that one reality.
Mm-hmm. So I was in a meditation one time, and sometimes I kind of go far out, and I found myself another meeting, and I'm pretty sure it was the Galactic Federation of Light. Pretty sure it was yet another kind of Star Wars sort of thing where I'm looking around and I'm like, this is not normal. This is just not normal. Here we are, and they're like, "What are you doing here?" And I'm like, "I don't know, but
Didn't
I'm
you
here."
call?
Yeah. So, but what I learned when I was there is that when I turned around and I looked at kind of where I had come from, it was very clear to me that we are soul family and we are
Yes.
destined to find one another, and how fast you find one another depends on how you show up.
Mm,
So if you're going to hang out in those old programs, it's going to take you a little while. If you're ready to let go, people will show up. Why? Because they resonate with you. They're on the same frequency. They're in the same bandwidth. And so as we rise all together, more people are going to find, and then it's up to us to turn around and help them,
bingo.
realize their potential and their soul family. And that's how we rise together. So I think, like what you're talking about, it's as we clean and clear, as we grow, as we let go and surrender to this beautiful process, those people there's no way for them not to show up anymore. And it's accelerated, as you know.
Oh, yes.
Time is speeding up, and it's buckle up because it's coming. And I've seen that, and it was a gift actually to see that. Like, I'm so not alone. Like, why on earth did I ever think I was alone? That's ridiculous. And then
Right.
all your guides are there, like cheering you on, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. And they're like, okay, we're busy with our planning meeting. I'm like, okay, bye, see you later.
Wait,
And then
what are you planning?
yeah, I know.
What about interference? Can you speak to that? Because there is this concept of free will, right? Which I'm starting to more and more, it's seeming as if the soul's path is really, really clear. It is kind of a linear point A to point B. And so those nudges happen when I'm getting out of tune, like a guitar, right? When you
Mm-hmm.
pluck the string and, oh, this doesn't
Mm-hmm.
exactly sound resonant. This doesn't feel in its tuned position here. So give it a little subtle
A little
tweak.
tweak.
And so that shows up as like, oh, a car accident because I needed to slow down and actually be more present while I'm driving, or getting
Yeah.
swept out in the ocean by a rip tide, like there's so many different ways that these wake up calls happen,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so from that vantage point, how does one like process and assimilate from your vantage point? How do we, as timelines are accelerating, as things are getting more and more clear, as these nudges become louder and louder, right? It feels like timelines are collapsing. How does one best navigate that?
Mm. From my experience, you have to lean in. Meaning, for me as a woman, I sit with it and I sit in the energy and I go, okay, what am I supposed to learn from this? And I'll journal and I'll write down the list of things that I learned from a riptide, a heart attack, a car wreck. And by the end, I'm like, whoa, okay, that's kind of a lot. Have I learned everything that I need to learn from this experience? No. Okay. So I have to dive in a little bit deeper. I mean, I ask questions. That's I think where I've gotten where I'm at is I ask a lot of questions. Like what the hell? That's one of my questions.
Right.
um, but I asking, asking, what is this for? Why am I here? Why is this relationship presented? And then allowing the answers to come, to me, has been the best way to move forward. When I fight against it and I get my New Orleans Cajun stubborn girl comes out, it doesn't work as well. It just doesn't. It served me in other areas, like in the operating room or in the military and things like that. But in this line of work, it's just not a place for ego. It's just not. And you surrender to the moment and feel into what's right. Okay, so I had this experience. What's my next move? How do I integrate that? How does that help me move forward? And I have people a lot of times spend moments of time in plan A. Let's say you have a decision to make based on an experience. So create plan A. Let's say it's a move to A or B, or a move to A or B is stay. So spend time in the energy of moving, the people you're going to meet, where you're going to be sleeping, how you're going to eat, the joy that's there. Like literally go there and spend time, imagine it, because creativity and imagination is the highway with which the information comes in on.
Mm.
So if you can't let that imagination go, it's going to be a little bit more difficult. So we got to get back into our creative selves and allow that imagination to be the highway of information to come in. So they spend time in A and feel what that feels like, right? Because it's about feeling. And then disconnect and then go into B. B could be a known, B could be an unknown. So go and spend time in B, you know? So it's a practice. So when that resistance comes up, sit with it and learn what you need to learn, and then go feel what your next moves are moving forward. What feels right? What feels flowy? What feels with ease and grace and less resistance?
Mm.
What's less resistance? Sometimes I have to go beyond. Like when I left my job, I didn't have anything lined up. I just knew that I needed to go so that I could be free to show up. No strings attached.
No strings attached. Wow, you just completely reframed that one for me. All the chords, no strings
No
attached.
strings. And it can be a bumpy road. Not going to lie on that one. Um, and with this last experience, with leaving a couple years ago and what I'm in right now, basically one of my mentors said, you're in a cannon and you're being shot out of a cannon, and your goal is to survive. And I was like, that's lovely, thanks. Thanks. And she said, but the landing is soft, so focus on the landing.
Mm.
Focus on the landing. And that's what I've been doing, and that's led me to this moment right here. This is the landing.
This is the landing.
This is it. So if I hadn't made that decision to leave and lean into all that just happened over the last couple of years and know that the landing's going to be soft, I might not have done it.
And all the people, every person that's listening to this, you and I mean, selfishly, I get such a benefit being a podcaster, right? Getting to actually have a new illuminating conversation with you that probably wouldn't have existed otherwise. And the benefit is that it's a ripple effect because the law of one speaks about service to self and service to others. Obviously, service to others is the highest timeline, but if we don't fill up our own batteries, if I don't actually have full capacity, I have nothing to give, right? And that's where those lower energy centers, the more primal ones, that's where like anger,
Mm-hmm.
negativity, frustration, all that stuff for me has been linked when I'm not filling up my own cup. And so knowing thyself, shout out Andre Duquam, the Know Thyself podcast, knowing thyself is just mission critical, right? And then by knowing myself, I get to be more and more at ease, more and more at flow, more and more connected, more and more presence, passion, purpose, and play, baby. That is what we do all day, having so much fun. And we celebrate. Amy over here just beaming, looking great. This is so incredible. Look what we co-create. The tapestry is weaving. You know how it forms. We put our hearts together and it forms a swarm because we're all being our best coming up in here, and we will express our own kind of gifts, and that we will cherish. We're coming with love. No one's embarrassed. We all throw our gifts to the wind, let them fly, because we up in here, we smile so wide with so much joy and gratitude. That be my heart. That's my attitude. Thank you very much for tuning in to the Ascend podcast. Tapping into your signature frequency, your ascension, your being, your beaming. Thank you so much, Dr. Amy Marshall, for being you.
Thank you, Tyler, for you. And we must fill up, and it's the overflow that we give.
Yes. And out of that overflow, listener, dramymarshall.com. A lot of exciting things coming. Sessions are available anywhere in the world, even in India. And there's just so many different ways that we can co-create and support each other. So thank you for having the courage to come on here. I know it's been a long time coming. I was here
Yeah.
2 years ago when you had your heart attack and was part of a coherence healing with Hayden, right? We all came together and we're offering our support as much as possible. And that translation of the prayer, which is actually feeling it in the now moment as it's divine aligned, most beautiful state, right? Which is exactly what these tools are. They're permission slips for our bodies to get out of our own way, to feel a little more flow, a little more energy, a little more passion. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Tyler. It's been fun. And then
Aho.
aho.